Have you ever felt like you're repeatedly going through the same difficulties, as if the universe is testing you, offering the same challenges until you finally learn the necessary lesson? Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, saw these patterns not as mere coincidence, but as profound signs of the collective unconscious shaping our journey. Jung's concept of synchronicity suggests that the universe communicates with us through seemingly accidental events that are loaded with meaning. These tests from the universe aren't punishments, but opportunities for transformative growth. Before a significant change occurs in your reality, the universe first verifies, are you truly ready? In this inspiring journey through Jungian psychology, discover how to recognize, face, and transcend the universal tests that precede the greatest transformations of your life. In the vast tapestry of human experience, Carl Jung introduced a revolutionary concept that forever changed how we perceive coincidences. Synchronicity, the meaningful connection between seemingly unrelated events, represents one of the universe's most profound methods of communication and testing. Unlike causality, which follows a linear pattern of cause and effect, synchronicity operates on a different plane altogether, suggesting that events can be connected not by causation, but by meaning. Jung first developed this concept after observing countless patients whose lives seemed guided by remarkable coincidences that defied statistical probability. These weren't random occurrences, but appeared to be messages tailored specifically to the individual's psychological journey. Consider the moment when you're contemplating a life-changing decision, and suddenly, relevant signs appear everywhere. A book falls open to a meaningful passage, a stranger mentions the exact topic you've been pondering, or you repeatedly encounter the same number or symbol. The universe, through synchronicity, doesn't speak in obvious declarations, but in subtle patterns that require our conscious attention. These patterns often intensify during periods of potential transformation, serving as cosmic signposts indicating whether we're moving in alignment with our true path. When we stand at the threshold of significant change, synchronistic events cluster around us, like stars forming a constellation of meaning. What makes these synchronistic events tests rather than mere signs is their requirement for interpretation and action. The universe doesn't simply hand us answers, it provides clues that we must decipher through careful introspection. Each synchronicity asks, are you paying attention? Can you see beyond the veil of ordinary perception? The test lies not in the event itself, but in our response to it. Do we dismiss it as meaningless coincidence, or do we recognize it as a message from the deeper layers of existence? Jung believed that synchronicities increase during psychologically significant periods, particularly when we're approaching what he called individuation, the process of becoming our authentic selves. These events often challenge our existing worldview, forcing us to expand our understanding of reality beyond the merely rational or material. They invite us to perceive the world as more mysterious, interconnected, and responsive to consciousness than our modern scientific mindset typically allows. The universe tests our receptivity through synchronicity. Those who remain closed to such experiences may find themselves trapped in repeating patterns, while those who remain open may discover invisible threads guiding them toward transformation. Jung described this as a causal connecting principle, connections that defy conventional understanding yet feel profoundly meaningful. This principle suggests that physical reality and psychological reality are not separate domains, but interrelated aspects of a greater whole. Synchronicities often appear most dramatically when we're facing our greatest challenges or standing at important crossroads. They serve as bridges between our conscious intentions and the unconscious forces that shape our lives. When properly recognized, they can provide confirmation that we're aligned with our deeper purpose, or warnings when we've strayed from our authentic path. The universe tests our intuition and inner knowing through these events, asking whether we trust our deeper wisdom or remain bound by conventional thinking. Learning to recognize synchronicities requires developing what Jung called active imagination, a heightened state of awareness that allows us to perceive meaningful patterns in everyday events. This faculty isn't mystical, but psychological. It's the ability to see connections that the rational mind might overlook. The universe tests our capacity for this type of awareness, particularly when we're approaching significant transformation. Those who successfully navigate these tests often report a profound shift in consciousness, a feeling that the universe isn't a cold mechanical system, but an intelligent field responding to our inner state. This perspective doesn't contradict science, but expands it, suggesting that meaning and purpose are woven into the fabric of reality alongside physical laws. The universe tests our willingness to embrace this expanded worldview before unveiling deeper layers of reality. In practical terms, synchronicities often emerge around recurring themes in our lives: unresolved emotional patterns, untapped potential, or unfulfilled aspects of our authentic selves. They act as cosmic mirrors, reflecting what requires our attention before genuine transformation can occur. By recognizing and engaging with these meaningful coincidences, we participate in a dialogue with the universe itself, demonstrating our readiness for the next phase of our evolution. Jung's concept of the shadow represents one of the universe's most profound testing grounds for personal transformation. The shadow contains all that we've rejected, suppressed, or denied about ourselves, the aspects of our personality deemed too frightening, shameful, or socially unacceptable to acknowledge. Yet, paradoxically, it's precisely this confrontation with our shadow that the universe demands before allowing significant shifts in our reality. When the universe tests us through the shadow, the experience often feels like repeatedly encountering the same disturbing patterns or people who trigger intense emotional reactions. These aren't random occurrences, but carefully orchestrated opportunities for integration. Jung observed that what we reject internally doesn't simply disappear. It projects outward, appearing in our external reality as situations or individuals who embody our disowned qualities. This psychological mechanism creates a testing ground where we must face what we've attempted to escape within ourselves. The shadow test operates with remarkable precision. If you carry unacknowledged anger, the universe will present you with angry people. If you've buried feelings of inadequacy, circumstances will arise that trigger those exact insecurities. These encounters aren't punishments, but invitations to wholeness. The universe tests our willingness to recognize that what bothers us most in others often reflects disowned aspects of ourselves. Jung famously noted that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves, a profound insight into how shadow tests function. What makes shadow work particularly challenging is its counterintuitive nature. Our instinct, when faced with uncomfortable projections, is to blame, avoid, or fight against them. The universe tests our capacity to move beyond these defensive reactions toward recognition and integration. Can we see our judgments of others as clues to our own internal landscape? Can we acknowledge that our strongest emotional triggers point directly to unhealed aspects of ourselves? This reversal of perspective represents one of the universe's most demanding tests. The intensity of shadow tests often correlates with the magnitude of potential transformation awaiting us. Before major life changes, the universe frequently amplifies shadow encounters, bringing our deepest patterns into sharp relief. These periods can feel like everything is going wrong, when in fact, everything is working exactly as needed for our evolution. The darkness intensifies before breakthrough, because only by facing our complete self, both light and shadow, can we achieve authentic transformation. Shadow tests also reveal themselves through recurring relationship patterns. If you repeatedly attract partners with similar negative qualities, or find yourself in the same dysfunctional dynamics despite changing circumstances, the universe is highlighting shadow material requiring integration. Until you recognize and claim these projections, the pattern will persist, not as punishment, but as an opportunity for completion. Jung observed that many people spend their entire lives avoiding their shadow, thus missing the transformation. It offers dreams, provide another arena where shadow tests manifest. According to Jung, dreams where we're pursued, threatened, or encountering disturbing figures often represent shadow aspects seeking acknowledgement. The universe uses dream imagery to bypass our conscious defenses, presenting shadow material in symbolic form. These dreams aren't random, but purposeful communications, testing our readiness to integrate disowned parts of ourselves. Recurring dreams particularly signal unresolved shadow aspects requiring attention before reality transformation can occur. What distinguishes those who pass shadow tests from those who remain trapped in repetitive patterns is their willingness to take radical responsibility. The universe tests our capacity to recognize that external triggers connect to internal material, that our reality reflects our consciousness, including parts we'd prefer to deny. This perspective shift moves us from victim to creator, from blaming circumstances to recognizing their purpose in our psychological development. Jung emphasized that shadow integration doesn't mean condoning negative behaviors, but understanding their roots and reclaiming the energy bound within them. The universe tests our ability to distinguish between acknowledging shadow aspects and acting them out destructively. Can we recognize our capacity for traits we've rejected without being consumed by them? Can we find constructive channels for shadow energies rather than projecting them unconsciously? These questions form the core of the shadow test. The reward for passing shadow tests is nothing less than authentic power and expanded consciousness. When we integrate shadow aspects, we reclaim the energy previously spent on suppression and projection. Relationships transform as we stop using others as screens for our disowned qualities. Most importantly, our reality shifts because we're no longer creating from fragmentation but wholeness. The universe tests us through the shadow precisely because its integration is essential for genuine transformation. We cannot change our reality while denying significant aspects of ourselves. Within the vast architecture of the collective unconscious, Jung discovered universal patterns he called archetypes, primordial images and energies that have shaped human experience since time immemorial. These archetypes aren't merely theoretical constructs, but active forces that emerge prominently during periods of testing and transformation. They serve as both the administrators of our universal tests and the guides that help us navigate them successfully. The universe tests us through archetypal encounters, often activating specific archetypes at precisely the moments when their wisdom is most needed for our evolution. When facing life's greatest challenges, we may suddenly find ourselves drawn to stories, dreams, or synchronistic encounters that embody archetypal energies. The hero, the wise elder, the trickster, the great mother, or the shadow. These aren't random appearances, but carefully timed interventions, orchestrated by the deeper intelligence of the psyche. The hero archetype frequently emerges during tests that require courage and perseverance. When the universe presents obstacles that seem insurmountable, the hero energy becomes available to us, offering the psychological resources needed to face our challenges. This doesn't mean external rescue, but an internal awakening of heroic qualities that were always present but dormant. The test lies in recognizing and embodying these qualities, rather than waiting for salvation from outside ourselves. Similarly, the wise elder or sage archetype often appears through dreams, synchronistic encounters, or internal intuition, when we face tests requiring discernment and wisdom beyond our ordinary consciousness. This archetypal energy doesn't provide easy answers, but rather a perspective that transcends our limited viewpoint. The universe tests our willingness to listen to this deeper wisdom, especially when it contradicts our ego's preferences or our culture's prevailing attitudes. The trickster represents one of the universe's most challenging archetypal tests. This figure, embodied in mythology by characters like Loki, Hermes, or Coyote, introduces chaos and disruption that force us to question our assumptions and rigid patterns. When life suddenly upends our careful plans or introduces paradoxical situations that defy logical solutions, the trickster is at work. The universe tests our adaptability and sense of humor through this archetype, asking whether we can embrace uncertainty and find creative responses to the unexpected. Jung observed that archetypal figures often appear most vividly during major life transitions, precisely when the universe is testing our readiness for transformation. These might manifest as powerful dream figures, characters that inexplicably fascinate us in films or literature, or even people who temporarily enter our lives embodying specific archetypal energies. The test involves recognizing these appearances not as random, but as meaningful encounters with aspects of the collective unconscious relevant to our current journey. What distinguishes archetypal tests from ordinary challenges is their numinous quality, a sense of encountering something larger than ourselves that carries profound significance. The universe tests our capacity to engage with these energies consciously rather than being unconsciously possessed by them. Can we recognize when we're being moved by archetypal forces rather than personal preferences? Can we work with these energies intentionally rather than being overwhelmed by their power? These questions form the essence of archetypal testing. The mother-father archetypes present particularly potent tests throughout our lives. How we relate to nurturing and authority, both receiving and expressing these energies, often determines our ability to create nurturing realities and exercise authentic power. The universe frequently tests our relationship with these primal archetypes before significant life changes, as unresolved parental dynamics can profoundly limit our capacity for transformation. This might appear as challenges with actual parents, or authority figures, or situations that evoke our deepest patterns around nurturing and power. The child archetype tests our relationship with vulnerability, innocence, and new beginnings. Before major transformations, the universe often creates situations that require reconnecting with these qualities. Can we approach change with the openness and wonder of a child while maintaining adult wisdom? Can we allow ourselves to be beginners, again embracing imperfection as we learn new ways of being? The child archetype tests our willingness to release expertise and control, qualities the ego treasures, but which can prevent genuine renewal. Perhaps most significantly, the self archetype, Jung's term for the organizing center of the psyche, that transcends and includes the ego, administers the ultimate test before reality transformation. This archetypal energy represents our fullest potential and authentic wholeness. The universe tests our allegiance to this deeper self versus our constructed persona or social identity. Situations that force us to choose between external approval and internal authenticity often represent the self-archetype at work, testing our readiness to align with our truest nature regardless of consequences. Those who successfully navigate archetypal tests develop what Jung called archetypal literacy, the ability to recognize and consciously engage with these universal patterns rather than being unconsciously driven by them. The universe rewards this literacy with increased meaning, purpose, and synchronicity as we move from being passive subjects of archetypal energies to active participants in their expression. This shift represents one of the most profound transformations possible in human consciousness, opening doorways to realities previously hidden from view. Individuation, Jung's term for the lifelong process of psychological integration and wholeness, stands as the central purpose behind the universe's testing system. This journey toward becoming one's authentic self doesn't unfold smoothly or linearly, but through a series of carefully orchestrated challenges designed to awaken dormant aspects of our psyche. The universe tests us not out of cruelty, but necessity, as genuine transformation can only occur when we've demonstrated readiness for expanded consciousness. Jung observed that individuation follows archetypal patterns that transcend cultural and historical boundaries. Regardless of background or circumstance, humans encounter similar psychological thresholds that must be crossed for authentic development. These universal passages include separating from parental and collective identifications, confronting the shadow, integrating anima-animus energies, the contrasexual aspects of our psyche, and ultimately discovering the self. The universe tests our readiness for each stage before allowing passage to the next. What makes these tests essential, rather than optional, is the nature of psychological growth itself. Unlike physical development, which proceeds automatically given proper nourishment, psychological evolution requires conscious participation. The universe tests our willingness to engage with this process rather than remaining comfortable within familiar but limiting patterns. Jung noted that many people prefer the security of their psychological prisons to the uncertainty of freedom, a preference the universe challenges through escalating tests until growth becomes less painful than stagnation. The principle of enantiodromia, the key tendency of things to transform into their opposites when taken to extremes, governs many of these tests. The universe often pushes us toward the excessive expression of a quality until we discover its shadow aspect, thereby achieving balance. Those who rigidly pursue security may find themselves tested through unexpected losses until they develop inner resilience. Those obsessed with control may face chaotic circumstances until they learn flexibility. These tests aren't punishments, but corrections guiding us towards psychological equilibrium. Dreams play a crucial role in the testing process, serving as both messengers and training grounds. Jung discovered that dreams don't merely reflect our daily concerns, but actively compensate for conscious attitudes, presenting material necessary for wholeness. Before major life transitions, dreams often intensify, offering previews of potential transformations and testing our response to them in the safety of symbolic experience. The universe uses dreams to evaluate our readiness for changes we consciously desire but may unconsciously resist. The necessity of tests becomes particularly evident when examining the alternative, what Jung called neurosis. When we refuse the universe's invitations to growth, the rejected energies don't disappear, but manifest as psychological symptoms, relationship difficulties, or external obstacles that persistently return until addressed. The universe tests our willingness to engage consciously with what seeks expression, rather than suffering its unconscious manifestations. This principle explains why the same challenges often reappear until we've fully integrated their lessons. Crucially, individuation tests ask us to differentiate between the voice of the ego and the deeper self. The ego, our conscious sense of identity, naturally resists transformation, preferring the known to the unknown, regardless of limitations. The universe tests our ability to recognize when ego attachments impede authentic growth, creating circumstances that force choosing between comfortable familiarity and challenging evolution. These decision points represent critical thresholds. In the individuation process, Jung emphasized that individuation doesn't mean isolation, but rather a more authentic connection with others. The universe frequently tests our capacity for genuine relationship as part of the individuation journey, presenting interactions that reveal our projections, dependencies, and capacity for empathy. Can we relate to others as they truly are rather than as carriers of our projections? Can we maintain boundaries while remaining emotionally available? These relationship tests prove essential for psychological maturity. The painful aspects of individuation tests, loss, disappointment, failure, serve specific developmental purposes. Jung noted that suffering often accomplishes what intellectual understanding cannot, creating the necessary humility and depth for genuine transformation. The universe tests our relationship with difficulty itself, asking whether we can find meaning in challenges rather than merely seeking their absence. This capacity to derive wisdom from suffering distinguishes those who transform through tests from those who merely endure them. Perhaps most significantly, individuation tests ask us to surrender the illusory control maintained by ego consciousness. The universe creates circumstances where our careful plans and defensive strategies prove ineffective, forcing reliance on deeper resources. These apparent failures actually invite us into partnership with transpersonal forces, what Jung called the self, that can guide us toward authentic expression beyond ego limitations. This surrender represents one of the most profound tests in the individuation journey, determining whether we remain confined within ego consciousness or open to the greater reality that awaits beyond its boundaries. As we've explored throughout this journey through Jungian psychology, the universe doesn't test us to punish or confuse, but to prepare us for profound transformation. Each synchronicity, shadow encounter, and archetypal experience serves as preparation for the expanded consciousness that awaits beyond our comfort zones. The process of individuation, becoming who we truly are, requires these tests as catalysts for genuine growth. When you find yourself facing recurring challenges or mysterious coincidences, remember that these may be invitations rather than obstacles. The universe speaks through patterns, asking if you're ready to transcend your current limitations and step into a new reality. By consciously engaging with these tests, recognizing synchronicities, integrating shadow aspects, working with archetypal energies, and embracing the individuation process, you participate in your own evolution. Jung discovered that those who willingly face these universal tests eventually experience a remarkable shift. Life no longer feels like a series of random events, but a meaningful journey guided by deeper wisdom. Your reality transforms not because circumstances magically change, but because you've changed fundamentally through meeting each test with awareness and courage. In this way, the universe's tests become not obstacles to happiness, but the very path through which your authentic self and your authentic life can finally emerge.